Hey Barrett, great to see you again after what feels, it's only been a year on the calendar, but it feels like it's been 10 years with what we've experienced, huh?
Dude, it has, man. It's certainly, I'm sure I have a couple gray hairs because of it too.
Yeah, I've definitely lost a year or two on my end of my life, but it's all good. Here's sort of what I want to do. I want to set this up, okay? You and I recorded literally 7 days before the world went into lockdown last year, March of 2020. And we had a great conversation. Today, we're going to have a shorter conversation about really what we've experienced as business leaders and entrepreneurs over the last year and some lessons that maybe we can take from it and just what the experience was about. Does that sound cool?
Yeah, man. It's certainly been quite a trip, and any bit I can share with the audience, man, I love to.
Yeah, so here's the first thing I'd like to just hop into. Walk us through logistically. You're in Michigan for your own gym. How long were you shut down in Michigan? And talk a little bit of some of the pains and the experiences from that.
Yeah, so we shut down. It was Monday, March 13, and like midway through the day. So we had our morning workouts, and then we shut those down. Governor's orders came out, and certainly, what was projected as a 3-week shutdown, kind of in the back of my mind, I knew, hey, this probably isn't going to be 3 weeks. So it ended up being, fast forward 6 months in total. We had a couple glimmers in there where we really did think that we were going to be able to open up a little bit earlier than early September. And, unfortunately, just the way it happened, we were unable to open until the very beginning of September. And, we were fortunate enough to be able to do outdoor workouts, and our team adapted and changed and made sure that we were doing, outdoor workouts when we were finally allowed to gather in groups outside. But we were also doing live Zoom workouts, recorded workouts. I mean, it was, pretty much improvisation, like just improvising all the time. Hey, what do we need to do? We need to pivot. Okay, how do we adjust? How do we make this better? All with the focus of how does this feel for our clients? Because ultimately, when we look at this, our gym was shut down, but just because your health, wellness, and fitness in terms of the facility, the brick and mortar is shut down, it's not changing the responsibility to live a healthy life. So, for us, our focus was always, hey, how do we make sure to adjust, adapt, and ensure that our clients are getting the best version of us? Because, they needed it. Everybody needed, not only physiologically from exercise in that sense, but a mental break from, what was happening. Because, let's face it, nobody knew what was happening. There was so much fear circulating. There was so much concern, unknown, that having a little bit of a bit of break throughout the day when you're doing something positive for your life, like working out, can certainly change your mindset. From whenever that happens, it's almost like a switch, boom, where you get to do that. So pretty interesting.
Yeah, one of the things that you said in our pre-interview was that the circumstance may change, but the responsibility doesn't, right? And you said your focusing your focusing question you asked is, how do we retain our clients? And it wasn't just from a money standpoint, although that's a very real thing. It was also, how do we retain their well-being? How do we retain and show them that this is all about their benefit? How did you do that with your team?
Yeah, that was really tough. Engagement was the name of the game for us, really. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Obviously, from a business standpoint, you got to maintain clients because that's what helps keep you in business, right? So certainly there's a financial aspect of it, but realistically, engagement became the rallying cry. We knew that if we were absentee, if we weren't there, if we were just putting things out and not going, above and beyond what we normally do, that unengagement or just people being disconnected would really lead to almost like a feeling of isolationism between an individual and like the group. So certainly that became the biggest rallying cry for us. Every day we're sending out text messages, individual, text messages, voice shots, video clips to our clients. Because, as we all go through, like all of our clients, they have a person responsible for them, a person on our team. And our job was to reach out to everybody on our, responsibility list to really just engage with them. Hey, what can I help you with? We did a whole heck of a lot, from individualizing workouts, personalizing them, to actually having kids boot camps and things. For us, it became a whole lot more than just working out. It became, being a part of their life, and kind of like that rock, because everything else in our lives was so unstable. I mean, it's like literally being on a boat, going one day, hey, you're riding smooth, and then you get a wave that comes in, and everything was super unpredictable. So it became engagement was so important, just on getting to know our clients even stronger than what we did on a personal level. And that's part of coaching.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. And I want to switch to that. So it's a perfect segue. You mentioned the boats and being out on the water, and you, in a pre-interview too, you mentioned it was the same storm, but we were, different boats, right? And you have the unique perspective to also wear that coaching hat, where you coach and you work with other business owners across the country. Talk to me a little bit about how you were able to switch from, coaching somebody in Texas to Florida to Michigan to California, maybe in the same day, and they're all having the same overarching issue of a pandemic and adjusting their business and engaging, but they have different rules they're playing by. Can you talk on that?
Yeah, certainly. Every state, because every state was under their own laws and their own rules. Every state had different occupancy times when they could open. Florida was able to open June 1. Texas was able to open, midway through May, I believe. And then, Ohio, even our closest neighbor, they were able to open the end of May. So there's a lot of different states that opened at different times. The state of Illinois was very challenging. The state of California, very challenging. New York, Michigan. We had harder restrictions, harder shutdowns, harder lockdowns. So, I mean, it was very challenging for me. It was a bit of paying way more attention to, other states than what I'm normally used to. So trying to find out, hey, what's going on in the state so I can help offer good coaching and good advice, because across the board, engagement was going to be strong. It was the need. It was the focal point of every business, in specifically our franchise, because we all do the same, relatively same thing, same programming, same style, that sort of stuff. So engagement. So depending on what their state was, it was like, hey, figure out where they're currently at. And then, hey, how do we adjust right now? Because some states were allowed to do outdoor stuff. Some states weren't. So, I mean, it was literally like, it was a blessing actually. And when I look at it, because I had the availability to talk to all these different owners who had different situations, different sets of scenarios and rules that they had to play by. And I was able to essentially aggregate information, take it in and crowdsource it and be like, okay, hey, this is what I've seen that's been working really well for people in, fill in the blank, Texas, because Florida and Georgia had very similar release times. But, I can tell you single-handedly the biggest, value add that we've had and the competitive advantage that we've had is the networking capability, because we pivoted on a dime to say, all right, look, we're going to have now Zoom sessions. We're going to record Zoom sessions, so not only can we run a live workout where we can be within your living room, now we can actually get it. We can screen record it. We can pre-record ones for people who are a little bit more comfortable with doing a follow-along workout. So, and at the end of the day, we're still coaching. We're still coaching from a nutrition standpoint. So it really did create, it forced us into creating, better services and other ways to connect with our people. And, just like any other aspect in life, whenever this passes, we're going to be stronger for it. It is the individuals who, not the strongest, but the ones who can adapt the fastest, and they can, really embrace the change that happens. And I think that's something that, again, you don't learn that in books. It's just, from doing and being around the right people and making sure that you've been in a lot of different rooms in your life. And it's no guarantee, but it certainly improves the odds.
Yeah. And you said also that fortune favors the action takers, and that's what you're speaking to, right? And I love that. What's one thing? Is it the video and what I call asynchronous, where you may have like 5 people in your gym and you're streaming that in real time. Is that something that's going to remain with you guys moving forward, or is there something else that you've learned through this that's going to remain with you?
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest things that we've realized, and that a lot of people do, like working out from the comfort of their home. So we're going to figure out a way that how we can continue to provide that, because at the end of the day, all businesses, every single business that we're in, is all about finding a solution for a problem. That's it, In ours, like when we look at my business, it's health, wellness, and fitness. How do we improve that? That's the problem. That's the bottleneck. How do we solve it? And how can we make sure to adjust, adapt, and overcome? And for us, I can tell you, I mean, in a million years, I never would have thought we'd be streaming live, workouts from inside of our facility. And now that's become a staple. I mean, every one of our workouts inside, we have a Zoom camera. We installed a separate computer that live streams. We had to figure out audio, how, essentially we can audio stream, like, so our coaches get to speak into the mic and somebody at home can hear it crystal clear, with no impact to music. And then we're able to record that, to post it, to share it. And I mean, it's been quite the learning, forced learning. But those sort of pivots and those sort of adjustments, it just strengthens the mental muscle, because we know we're going to have to change, as we come up. And, quite honestly, it's like, the analogy that I look at is Blockbuster. Blockbuster had the market by the horns, and, they had 2 options. They had to either run the course or pivot and adjust. And, Netflix pivoted and adjusted, and unfortunately Blockbuster didn't. And our internal rallying cry is, listen, we're not Blockbuster, we're Netflix, and we're going to continue to adjust and adapt and move forward. And that's ultimately what we need to do.
A funny aside to that is, the owners and startup folks of Netflix were about to throw in the towel, and they went to Blockbuster and they offered Blockbuster to buy Netflix technology, and Blockbuster said no.
Really?
So to your point, it is about being an innovator. Disruption only happens when you choose to not innovate.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And Google Hangout was going to be the next big thing, that everyone was going to be on Hangouts and everyone was there. And what did Facebook do? They introduced chat and groups. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, but I don't think anybody I know that is of matter of influence actually uses Google Hangouts at the highest level, right? Because the market share platform, Facebook, adapted, and they innovated before they could be disrupted. So that's what that speaks to. Let me ask you this question. What's one thing today that if you could go back and tell Barrett in March of 2020, what's something you would tell him?
Ooh, man, there's so many things, right? I'd probably tell Barrett, two that come to mind, is take deep breaths. It's very challenging when you start getting in, you start feeling the squeeze, you start feeling the pressure, and, business shutdown, all that sort of stuff. Take deep breaths, because as you start to calm yourself, you get to think a little bit more clearly. That was big, because, there were so many things to process, and it was happening at lightning speed. And I can tell you, the action part, like, man, we took so much action. Like, it was like we were just pivoting so fast. Like, our team, like, and I say this lovingly, they couldn't keep up at first, because and that was my fault, because I'm just like changing. Hey, we're gonna do this. Hey, we're gonna do this. So we did take a massive amount of action on the front end, and that's a lot of credit to them, because they didn't peep. They just went. They just forged ahead. But I would have told Barrett to, be also a little bit more listening to the team, because, I was so concerned with, I need to take action, I need to do this, that on the front end, like, interestingly enough, some of the stuff that we actually implemented, like parking lot workouts, bringing out all of our equipment out. We could have done that earlier, had I been a better listener, because there was some dialogue on the front end. Hey, what if we do this? And, it didn't grow legs, because we were so focused on, online stuff and just being at the park and other things. And, come to find out, like, if I would have listened just a little bit more, we probably would have had better service on the front end. And it's growth, right? And that's a product of putting a lot of really great people around me. And sometimes, shutting your mouth and getting out of the way and letting the people who you brought on like do the creation and just kind of help in that aspect. So, man, that was pretty interesting. And sometimes, like, I think, as a leader in the organization, you get caught up with, hey, I got to be the leader. Hey, I got to be the leader. But actually, sometimes leading is following, is knowing when to follow and when to follow a great idea. Because if somebody has a great idea and they have like 100% vested interest in it, I promise you they're going to do that one, that they're going to do whatever that is way better than your idea, because they won't do it as much.
It's absolutely difficult. And there's like 3 or 4 things that come to my mind as we kind of land this plane, right? The first would be Steve Jobs talks consistently about, I hire people better than me in a key area of focus, and I let them tell me what we need to go do because they're the matter expert there. And so I hear some of that in what you said. Number 2, leadership is listening. The leaders who don't listen turn around and they don't have any followers. And if you continue to not listen or create an opportunity, and that's a lesson that you've learned from this, right? Is not that you weren't listening before. You thought I needed to step into action, right? And sometimes that action is listening. So I loved that
100%.
lesson from what you said. And the final thing that to kind of think about and moving forward is, imagine if every month we took a moment and sat back and we listened to what we were feeling. We listened to what we were going through. We listened and asked ourselves, did we like how we showed up in that meeting or in that appointment or in that consultation or in that coaching call, whatever it might be in our business, right? Are we practicing the pause? And are we thinking about what can we tweak or do differently? And sometimes it's not as big of a change as you might think. It might just be pausing and slowing down so later you can go speed up because you've made the right adjustments that you needed to do in your business.
Yeah, man, you're absolutely right. And there's a saying that a guy at our HQ, he's the director of operations, that he says, and he's a former SWAT guy. Dude, just like super dialed in. His name's Matt Schneider, great guy. But he says, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So just remember, like, calm it down for a second when you feel it. And coming from a guy who has dealt with hostage crises and like things way larger than I could ever even imagine. And I think that just like resonates sometimes, because you do get so caught up and I need to take action, I need to do it, that sometimes you're the one getting in the way. I'm the bottleneck. And that's, leadership it's so funny. Like, leadership is always, you're the cause of the problem, you're the solution to the problem. So like, and sometimes the solution to the problem, to your point, is getting the people on your team to put them and say, hey, where do you need me to help? And anytime you kind of get caught up in the heat of the moment, like I lean on the side of do. And sometimes, to your point, man, it's got to be to listen, right? Listen, yeah. Deep breaths, relax, and hey, let's then take action, right?
Well, Barrett, I really appreciate you carving out some time with us today. You've been in my thoughts. Everybody that is a part of your ecosystem has been in my thoughts. I wish you a slow, steady, and smooth reopening as we continue to fight the good fight. And I'm really hoping we can do this face-to-face in the near future and have that conversation around, here's all the lessons or the 10 lessons I learned. I think that'd be a pretty cool segment. So I appreciate you. And if there's anything that I can do to be of assistance or support, I'm here, okay?
Yeah, likewise, John. Looking forward to seeing you again, all right?
A big thank you to Barrett Henson from Fit Body Bootcamp for sitting down with us 2 times and exploring what true leadership's all about and leadership through a pandemic and lessons that we've learned through that and will apply moving forward. I encourage you to think about, as a leader, the power of listening, hiring the right people around your organization, and succeeding through them. That's the epitome of what Barrett's learned over the last year in this pandemic. If you found value in today's content, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss a lesson to become the leader you deserve to be. And until next time, lead on.